Okay, let's just jump right into this explainer and confront the crushing reality of consumer debt. Look, if you've ever felt like you're just endlessly running on a financial treadmill going nowhere fast, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to break down the ultimate dilemma of how you actually escape that debt trap, and we're going to do it by looking at two incredibly popular but fundamentally different strategies. To really understand why this matters so much, we got to look at the math that's working against us, 22%. Right now, that is exactly where the average credit card annual percentage rate is sitting. And that's just the cost you pay simply to borrow that money. It's honestly a devastating number. When you're carrying a balance at 22%, that interest is eating into for future wealth way faster than almost any standard investment could ever grow it. So the stakes for getting out of this hole, yeah, they're incredibly high. And that brings us to the core conflict we're exploring today. When you're standing at the bottom of an absolute mountain of debt, how do you escape, right? Do you optimize your money using pure mathematics? Or do you optimize your brain using behavioral psychology? It's a super fascinating debate, and we're going to dive into the top two frameworks that tackle this exact problem head on. All right, let's look at contender number one, the debt snowball. So this approach is famously championed by Dave Ramsey's Baby Steps program. And the whole premise here assumes that personal finance is driven way more by human behavior than by pure mathematics. It actually prioritizes psychological wins over absolute mathematical perfection. Here's exactly how it works. Step one, you immediately save a $1,000 starter emergency fund. The goal there is just so you stop relying on credit cards the second an unexpected expense pops up. Then, step two is where the magic happens. You list out all of your non-mortgage debts from the smallest balance to the largest balance. And get this, you completely ignore the interest rates. You just pay the minimums on everything, but you aggressively attack that smallest debt with every single extra dollar you have. Picture a little stick man pushing a tiny snowball. By clearing that first small debt quickly, you suddenly free up the cash flow you were paying on it. You then take that cash, roll it right into the payment for the next largest debt, and boom, the snowball gets bigger, it gets heavier, and it moves faster as it rolls downhill, eventually just completely smashing into your largest debts. The crucial takeaway here really is human behavior. The debt snowball is entirely about behavioral momentum. Getting a rapid, early victory, like finally paying off that lingering medical bill or a tiny retail credit card, it provides this massive surge of dopamine. It literally gives you the psychological fuel and the motivation you need to actually stick to a restrictive budget for the long haul. Okay, shifting gears to contender number two, the debt avalanche. Now, this strategy is backed by frameworks like the Money Guy's financial order of operations. And unlike the snowball, this one is built on a foundation of pure mathematical efficiency and wealth maximization. The sequence here is very, very different. First, you save enough cash to cover your highest insurance deductible, basically mitigating any catastrophic risk. Second, you maximize your employer match on retirement contributions. Why? Well, because that match is essentially a risk-free 50 to 100% return on your money. That easily beats even the highest credit card rates. So it's only in step three that you aggressively attack debt, but you do it by targeting the highest interest rate first, which is typically anything 8% or higher. Because think about it, high interest debt is literally an avalanche compounding against you. Imagine that same stickman frantically dodging massive 22% and 18% signs falling out of the sky. By targeting those highest interest rates first, basically fighting back with your calculator, you break apart the absolute costliest drag on your finances before it has a chance to bury you. But the reality of mathematical optimization is strict. By strictly following the math, you are 100% guaranteed to pay less total interest over the life of your debt. No question. However, it requires intense discipline. I mean, you might be paying off a massive 22% credit card for well over a year before you get the emotional reward of finally closing an account. So, let's get into the showdown, psychology versus pure mathematics. It is really important to note that as we look at the data here, neither of these methods is universally wrong. They just aren't. They're simply built to accommodate completely different human tendencies. Let's compare them completely neutrally. On one side, the debt snowball gives you those quick emotional wins, but mathematically speaking, you will pay a higher amount of total interest over time, and you actually have to delay investing until that consumer debt is totally gone. On the flip side, the debt avalanche forces you to endure delayed emotional wins, but it results in the absolute lowest total interest paid. Plus, it allows you to capture that free money from your employer match right out of the gate. To really crystallize the fundamental differences here, think of it like this. The snowball's core mechanism is smallest balance first, which grants you psychological momentum. The avalanche's core mechanism is highest interest first, prioritizing mathematical efficiency. Basically, one manages your feelings and the other manages your spreadsheet. Now, you might be wondering, why do feelings even matter so much in finance? Well, it comes down to behavioral science concepts like prospect theory. The data actually shows that the psychological pain of a financial loss is roughly twice as intense as the pleasure of an equivalent gain. Watching a 22% interest rate eat your hard-earned cash feels incredibly painful. So choosing a strategy that keeps you from panicking or worse, giving up altogether, is absolutely vital to your success. All right, let's talk about choosing your payoff strategy. With the mechanics and the psychology totally laid out, how do you diagnose which specific strategy actually aligns with your personal financial situation and your unique behavioral wiring? I want you to genuinely ask yourself which method is right for you. Take a second and just reflect on your own habits. Do you historically struggle with motivation, maybe keeping New Year's resolutions? Or do you physically cringe at the mere thought of paying the bank a single cent of unnecessary interest? Here is a quick, personalized diagnostic for you. Go ahead and choose the Snowball if you need those quick, visible wins to stay motivated, or honestly, if financial discipline has just always been a struggle for you. But you should absolutely choose the Avalanche if you hate the math of 22% interest, or if you have a really lucrative 401k match from your employer that you'd just be foolish to leave on the table. The absolute bottom line here, the best plan is simply the one you're actually going to stick to until you are completely debt-free. We've explored the momentum of the Snowball and the math of the Avalanche. Both are incredibly powerful tools to escape the trap of consumer debt. So I'll just leave you with this final thought to take action on today. As you look at your own finances, are you ready to optimize your money or optimize your mind?